The conference room was buzzing with tension. 33 candidates sat upright, each polished in expensive suits and shiny leather shoes. Among them was Emily Carter, her hands folded nervously in her lap, her shoes clearly worn out, with a visible tear on one side. When she walked in, a few heads turned, and the whispers began. "Look at her shoes," someone muttered with a chuckle. Another laughed. "Did she get lost on her way to a charity drive?" Emily heard every word, but she kept her eyes on the door, her heart pounding. She had no money to replace those shoes. Rent had drained her last paycheck, and taking care of her younger brother left little for herself. But she knew, this interview wasn't about shoes. It was about survival, about hope. When the CEO entered, the room fell silent. A tall man with silver hair and sharp eyes, Mr. Jonathan Reed, scanned the candidates. He noticed Emily instantly. Not because of her torn shoes, but because while others sat stiff and guarded, she smiled warmly, almost disarmingly. The interview process began, and one by one, the candidates tried to impress with rehearsed speeches, big words, and accomplishments polished to shine like glass. But when Emily's turn came, she took a deep breath and spoke from the heart. "I don't have the most expensive degree," she admitted, her voice steady but soft. "And I don't come from privilege. But I do know how to work hard, how to care about people, and how to keep going when life tells you to quit. I'm not just here to earn a living, I'm here to make a difference. To me, a job isn't just about income, it's about impact." Her words cut through the room like a fresh breeze. There was no arrogance, no exaggeration, just raw truth. By the time the last candidate finished, everyone assumed the CEO would pick one of the polished ones, the ones with perfect shoes and perfect resumes. But Mr. Reed stood up, looked at Emily, and said, You're the one." Gasps echoed through the room. Some stared in disbelief, others shook their heads. But Emily's eyes filled with tears. She had come to the interview with nothing but courage, and it had been enough. Later, in his office, Mr. Reed told her quietly, "I grew up with shoes worse than yours. I know what it takes to stand tall even when the world looks down on you. That's the kind of strength I want in my company." Emily walked out of the building that day, not just with a job offer, but with a renewed faith in humanity. She had been laughed at for her torn shoes, but chosen for the power of her spirit. And that's the truth we often forget. Sometimes it's not the polish that matters, it's the perseverance. Not the shoes on your feet, but the fire in your heart. True success isn't about what you wear, where you come from, or how the world sees you. It's about your resilience, your kindness, and your determination to rise. Even when everything around you tells you to sit down. The lobby smelled faintly of coffee and expensive cologne. 33 hopefuls sat in a row, their polished shoes tapping against the marble floor. Their resumes were tucked neatly inside leather folders, their faces rehearsed in mirrors that morning. And then, there was Emily Carter. Her shoes, old flats with a small tear on the side, stood out like a scar. The leather was faded, the sole slightly uneven. She knew people noticed. She heard the whispers, the muffled laughs. Seriously? Torn shoes at an interview? She must be desperate. She won't last 5 minutes. Emily lowered her gaze, holding her worn folder tightly. Inside it was her resume, plain and simple. No Ivy League degree. No glamorous internships. Just years of working 2 jobs, supporting her younger brother after their parents passed away. She had almost skipped the interview. She almost let her shoes stop her. But as she stood in front of the mirror that morning, her brother had tugged her hand and whispered, "Don't give up, Emily. You always told me we don't quit. So don't quit now." That memory gave her courage to walk through those glass doors. The conference room felt colder than the lobby. Each candidate got their turn. They spoke confidently about their degrees, their international experiences, their vision for the company. Words like leadership, innovation, and results filled the air. Emily listened quietly. She didn't have those stories. What she had were late nights working at the diner, early mornings tutoring her brother, moments where she had to stretch $1 into dinner for two. When her name was called, her palms were sweating. She stood, smoothed her skirt, and walked to the center. She heard a laugh behind her, low but sharp. Maybe she'll tell them how to patch shoes instead of lead projects. Emily ignored it. She looked at the CEO, Mr. Jonathan Reed. His expression was unreadable, calm, steady, sharp. "Tell us why we should choose you," he said. The room waited. Emily took a deep breath. "I know I don't look like everyone else in this room," she began. "My shoes aren't new. My resume isn't glamorous. But what I do have is something I don't see in everyone else. I have grit. I know what it's like to have nothing, and still find a way forward. I've learned to work hard, not because it looks good, but because people depended on me. And if I can carry that responsibility at home, I can carry it here. I don't just want a job, I want a chance to make a difference." For a moment, silence hung in the air. One of the candidates smirked, another rolled his eyes. But the CEO didn't blink. He leaned forward, studying her face as though weighing every word.